Flex versus MD, and then it was MD versus RxMuscle. Do you agree that Dave Palumbo and John Romano should have been fired? If you were in Steve's position, would you have done the same, or what do you think? What's up, Desktoppers? What's the Word? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding for another episode of What's the Word with Ron Harris, formerly of Muscular Development, now has his own channel on YouTube, so check it out. The link's in the description below. Michael Galley, 6-time Mr. Australia, and Jimmy Sadek. And we're discussing, Ron, we wanted to discuss Muscular Development. Obviously, you were pretty much the main guy there. Like when I associated with Muscular Development in recent years, it's Ron Harris, and you've been there for a long time, now recently out there doing the video type stuff, and more previously probably being a little bit more behind the scenes years ago, doing a lot of the writing and whatnot. But from your perspective, what happened at Muscular Development in terms of recent times and things finishing up there?
I mean, the simple answer is that the owner of the company, Steve Bleckman, he's 70 years old now, and he's been running major companies since he was in his 20s. And he's been having like some sciatica, some pain and stuff. And I don't know, I think he just sort of got to the point where he didn't want to work 12 to 14 hours a day running all these businesses. He had his supplement company, AML, the Muscular Development brand. And he just decided it was time to go. And, I knew the day would come. Nothing lasts forever. And, the company had been facing a lot of challenges. I don't like to say struggling, but things weren't as easy the last few years as they were. There was a time when, the magazine was 450 pages long. We had a big giant booth at the Arnold Classic with a stage. We had like 30 athletes under contract. And then social media came along, changed the game. Things have just changed quite a bit since the heyday. Print magazines, most of them went away. We were the last one. And it was just, I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And myself and Mick were actually just discussing on the phone like an hour ago. We were talking a little bit just about it, and we were saying how we're so overexposed now with what we see and what we get in terms of fans. Like, all I need to do is open Instagram, and I know I'm going to see some guys training, all that sort of stuff. But in the past, I remember getting a Jay Cutler DVD and being like, this is the holy grail. And I'd put it in my PlayStation and watch the DVD and watch it exercise for exercise and really break it down. And now it's like you see so much, you're like, do you think that's part of, I suppose, the downfall not only of magazines, because it's not just bodybuilding, it's across the world in terms of magazines, but also in terms of just overall online content? Because I remember those Kai Green videos on Muscular Development back in the day, just those, you look at them now and they're pretty basic, but they're epic. They go down in like bodybuilding history.
Yeah, I mean, think about when, back in the day when magazines were in their heyday, that was our only connection to the athletes, to the contests. You didn't get to see these guys on a day-to-day basis. So the magazines really had an advantage in those series. And we had athletes under contract where no one else could interview them. No one else could take photographs of them. Flex had their stable of athletes. MD had their stable of athletes. That was like the golden era. And like you said, these guys used to make so much money selling their VHS tapes, their DVDs. Or their pictures. They'd go to FIBO. They'd come back with like, $20,000 to $50,000 cash hidden in their clothing that they would make at the stand at the FIBO selling pictures. Now everyone just wants their picture with their phone for free. So things have changed just so dramatically. And it's progress. It's technology. The world's moved on, and we do so many more options. YouTube has how many channels? Probably like 100 million channels to choose from. You could put in anything in a search and you could watch 24 hours of free content every day from bodybuilders every day. And probably you wouldn't even be able to see anywhere near all of it.
Yeah. You really never run out pretty much with the amount of content that's actually out there. So I wanted to sort of get your perspective of how I suppose things have gone through with the magazine industry, because like you said, 450 pages for MD was not uncommon. I was saying to Mick, I even think that I had an episode that's an episode of the magazine where it was like 500 and something pages.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was a huge magazine. So in terms of like just it evolving, obviously we know the magazine sales, would have progressively gone down. Sponsors would have eventually pulled out with putting their sponsorship dollars into social media.
Yeah.
I suppose, like, how have you seen that evolution? Because you obviously being back in, like you said, the exclusive days and things like that, where it was, it was almost a war between you guys and Flex, and it was like everyone sort of saw it playing out online. Yeah. I mean, actually, I want to get your opinion on what did you think about the exclusive contracts?
I hated them. Always hated them, because there were always guys I really wanted to work with, talk to, interview, and I couldn't. Like Phil Heath. A lot of them, once they were finally done with Weeder contracts after many years, I finally got to interview them on the record. But I never liked the idea that these are our guys and you can't talk to them, you can't take pictures of them, and they had their guys that we could never get near. And especially they ran the Flex. Weeder owned the Olympia, so we were never allowed backstage at the Olympia. Very limited access coverage-wise for that, as compared to like the Arnold gave us more access in those days. But yeah, like I said, I never liked it, and I knew once social media came along, it was almost done, because now you don't have any exclusivity over these guys. They have their own Instagram, YouTube channels. They're not going to be exclusive, because the fans of, let's say, Evan Senapani just went crazy. They could see him every day on his own channel, on his own social media. So why would a magazine pay him, or any guy, $50, $100 or more $1,000 a year to be exclusive when there is no such thing as exclusivity anymore?
And Mick, you've been in this industry, obviously, like Ron. I don't know if you'd believe it, but Mick is much younger than he actually looks. But we call him the gift for that reason. But yeah, Mick's obviously seen the it all through bodybuilding as well, the magazines, and like obviously we've seen it change, and I know you miss it, like particularly like the way it used to be.
Oh yeah.
I guess especially if you see the older guys, because we remember how it was back in the day, and we love it. You look at the top mags back in the day: Muscle Development, Flex, Ironman, Muscle Mag International, Muscle and Fitness. They were the mags everyone went and got. I'd buy the whole lot, and I'd take them home. The photos were insane. You look at Muscle Development, had their period where they went through that natural phase. They also went through the phase where they had all the Amy Fardy and all the girls and the centerfolds in the middle. Then they went back to the hardcore bodybuilding, which was, when they went back to that, was fantastic. The photos were amazing. The articles were amazing. Ron, do you remember even in Venice, they had the Muscle Mag International shop in Main Street?
Yes.
Every single magazine was still available from the first copy. Like that Main Street back in the day was amazing. Like there was bodybuilding stores everywhere. But I just remember going in, and I could have got the very first magazine that was made. So
I didn't know that. When was that? When were you there that you saw the Muscle Mag store? I think I left LA.
2003 was the time I remember going there and saying that. Yeah.
Because I lived in LA from 91 to 2000, so I never saw that. But I remember that area. You were there. It was that was the Mecca. Guys would come from Australia, from Europe, from Asia. That was where everyone would come and visit, stay at the Marina Pacific Hotel, train at Gold's Gym Venice, eat at the Firehouse. And there were like 3 or 4, bodybuilding clothing stores, like Hot Skins had a store. Oh, those are
that Muscle Mag, Ron, was across. Do you know where LA Urban Fitness is, which is still there now, the supplement store? It was across the road from that on the corner, on the other side. That's where they'd set it up. But even that LA Urban Fitness back in the day was unbelievable. It was one of the most packed supplement stores I'd ever seen. And now, because my cousin lives in right in that area, Ron, so I go back and visit him.
Oh, wow.
And it's just not the same. I mean, obviously things evolve and they get bigger, and bodybuilding's so big now that it's in every city in America. But yeah, I miss those mags. I always will.
Yeah, I mean, it was a time when, before there was a big diaspora where everyone just took off to Vegas and Florida, different places. But now, nobody needs to be in any one location. In those days, because the magazines were the only media format, really, the only way you'd see these guys, everyone would flock to LA because the photographers for the magazines were always hanging around Gold's Gym Venice and World Gym, and they were always at the shows around taking place in LA. And if you didn't get the attention of a photographer or a magazine owner, you didn't exist. Nobody knew you were alive. Basically, if you weren't in those magazines, and bodybuilders depended on 100% for their publicity in that time. And now you make your own publicity. So in a way, I like the fact that people have been able to take control of their own careers, their own publicity. It's not in the hands of just a few magazine owners and photographers like it used to be.
Hey, Ron, you're obviously there when they started doing the big contracts too. So I don't know if you can name any figures or names, but obviously when you brought Jay Cutler on for muscle development, like, can you say what sort of contracts? Or obviously it would have been pretty big. No,
I know he and Dorian, a few people, those are the two that come to mind, that they were in the six figures, whether it was 100 or 500, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I've heard, I never saw the finances, but I heard different amounts from different people. So I heard everything for Jay between 150 and 500. I think Muscle Tech was paying with them now, but they were paying big money back then. Remember, they used to have like 30 guys on a contract. The top guys were all making into the six figures, and then they had all these other guys who were probably getting half of that. But it was a great time to be a bodybuilder for those guys, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the better you did as a bodybuilder back then, the more you got paid. Whereas I guess now it's a bit more open. Where I suppose you got to be pretty tech savvy these days too. To read that.
Back then it was a direct correlation to your placings, how well you went. Obviously, there was some outliers like a Gunter, that type of figure, who would still get paid and not go so well. But it was more traditional with other sports. The better that you are, the more money that you'll make. Whereas today, you don't need to compete. You don't need to go very well. If you're marketable, if you've got a big following, you're going to make bank too. Yeah. But I remember, do you know how much those magazines were in Australia, Ron? Like at MD?
I'm gonna guess. So if they were like $4 here at the time, I bet they were like $20 there.
Double it, $36.
What?
I remember paying $36 a month because the news agency would have to make money. The obviously the exchange rate, them shipping them over here, whatever. But I remember getting them like after school, whatever, going home and not moving, page after page, back to back. Like that it used to be exciting.
Yeah. No, I started buying the magazines. I'd say like early '88. I had a few, but I used to go to a newsstand in downtown Boston where I was going to college, and I knew every day that the magazines came out. Especially, I knew Iron Man came out on this day, Flex came out on this day, MD, and I would make sure I was at that newsstand every day on that, no matter what, because I had to have them the day they came out.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm curious. I want to know who. Okay, you've worked there forever.
Yeah.
Who would be your favorite person that you've ever, whether written their column, interviewed, spoken to, whatever? Like out of all the years, who's your favorite person that you've dealt with?
I always got along really well with Evan Senapani and Jose Raymond, but I liked, and a couple guys come to mind. Dorian Yates, I loved talking to him because it was educational. He would challenge me. I used to get into little arguments with him about the volume, the high volume, and the HIT versus volume, and he's a philosopher. He's a thinking man. I really love the discourses with him. Evan, just another guy, very, very educated, very well spoken, can break down things in various subjects. Jose's he's hilarious. He's a veteran of the sport. Lee Haney was someone I always loved because I felt spiritually and emotionally better after talking to him. He was such an uplifting, he is such an uplifting guy to talk to, so positive and full of just good energy. Kevin Levrone, similar way. I love talking to Kevin, so sorry I couldn't narrow it down to just one.
No,
actually, I like when Kevin was doing his comeback and you guys got to interview him a fair bit.
Who was that?
When Kevin did his comeback.
Oh yeah.
What was the show called again when you interviewed him?
The Levrone Report. My show was called the Ron Line Report, but Kevin came up with his brand Levrone Report years while he was doing the comeback. He was posting like constantly every day on that channel. Yeah, it was cool.
What about your favorite like era? And it doesn't have to be era. Let's say you can group 5 years together from like 2001 to 2006, whatever.
I'm gonna be the predictable old man and say the 90s. But you know what? I don't know necessarily if because it's funny. I just talked to a friend of mine an old training partner of mine from California yesterday. He was saying, "What's up with these guys today?" I said, "They're actually, the condition is very good these days. We kind of look at it the way with that nostalgia, the way you get a bunch of old guys together who are baseball fans. They'll talk about how the baseball players of the 50s and 60s were way better than these guys out there now." So we did have, I think the 90s, I was out there, I was young, I was in my 20s, I was in Los Angeles, I was at Gold's Gym every weekend, World Gym every weekend. It was just such a crazy talent pool that we had all at once. You had Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier, Vince Taylor, Nasser, Dorian, Kevin, Sean, Lee, on and on and on. It was a great group of guys, incredible physiques with, a lot of different looks to them and stuff. And they would go back and forth at all the different contests, beating each other. It was a really special time, but I don't know how much of that is accurate and how much I'm looking back just with that nostalgia, because I was young and that was the first era that I really grew up in, and I was kind of part of it, going to the Ironman every year, the Ironman Pro, the Arnold Classic. Yeah.
So I know this is a bit off topic too, Xavier, but this is really interesting. So, Ron, what's your take then? Like Sean Ray did a interview with Cutler a couple of weeks ago, and he made mention, obviously, the shows they're coming on later and later of the night time. Yeah. What do you think about them getting back? And I think it makes sense, getting them on as early as possible so their condition would be better rather than 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Well, we need a time machine because we would need to go back to when it was only bodybuilding. The issue now is all these divisions. You can't get a show done quickly. And I want to give the Olympia credit because they worked hard to make sure we were out of there. We were out of there at 10 one night, Friday, I think it was, 10:30 Saturday night, as opposed to, I think it was like 1:30 a.m. last year, the first night. And I think it was like 12:30 or 1 a.m. the second night. So they have done a lot, but you had 400. I keep using the Olympia because that's the prime example of a show that went too long last year. I can't imagine the poor guys in Europe, like Giles, trying to stay up and watch it. I felt awful for him. Well, actually, he was there. He was there that year, 22, the year it went wrong. But yeah, with 10 different divisions, actually 11, because they do have wheelchair at the Olympia now. That's 11 divisions. That's a lot of athletes. They had over 400 athletes, 419 or something last year.
But do you think obviously they leave the men's open to last, so the audience stays. It's the granddaddy, so it should be the last event. The best events go last, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of this, where they look night and day different, either going on first or they're going on after an unpredictable 4 to 7 hours, right?
Yeah.
Who cares if they go on first? They sold the tickets. If people don't want to stay for the bikini, then so be it. It is what it is. Sorry, bikini, there's 4 people there. Yeah. But it's not like with bodybuilding, it's different to other sports because one, it's about the look, and two, they've got to do some things that aren't necessarily healthy for long periods of time. They should put them first, followed by the 212, the classic. Then I don't know the exact order, but they should be first because I think they'll make more money, sell more tickets if the guys are looking better.
Well, the Olympia sells out regardless. So
that's right. Yeah.
They always sell out, but I think we're looking at it from a point of view of the athletes and the conditioning of the athletes and things like that. They're thinking like a showman, a promoter, where they want the that prestige of saving the best for last. Like if you go see a concert, the opening act is first, and then the main act follows because that's what people really want to see it. So I totally agree with you, but I don't see any difference. Interestingly, I did go to one show last year, the Boston Pro. It's the first time I've ever seen men's open bodybuilding was not the last division. Classic physique was the last division, which was, I don't think that's ever happened before and probably never will happen again. But I guess it's at the promoter's discretion. They could put the bodybuilders first. Of course, they can do anything they want to do. It's their show. But I don't see them ever doing that. Maybe it's just the fact because they don't want us empty seats where the camera's showing empty. I don't know.
They could even on the Friday night roll the fellas out first, and then on the Saturday night leave it till last. Like they can play with something like that. I think they'll do something different next year because they talk too much shit.
Yeah, that would work. I think everyone's waiting Friday night for the very end is going to be Men's Open. It's just such a tradition. I don't know if they would even consider changing it up.
Hey, Ron, are you excited it's going back to Vegas and in a brand new venue?
A little bit. It doesn't really matter. And honestly, I could be at Alaska, Antarctica. It doesn't matter. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's it's the same. But Vegas is a great venue, a great location for the Olympia. It's so glitzy and glamorous, and it's just over the top, bigger than life. Orlando is more family oriented. You know, you take your kids and maybe you'll stay a few days and go to SeaWorld and go to Disney or something. So, but Vegas is all about shows.
Yeah, I went to Orlando when it was 220. I was actually living in Dallas at the time, and I went to Orlando for the Olympia then. But you're right, you pretty much go there. There's not much else to do there unless you do the. I did go to one of the SeaWorld, but it cost a fortune. It was unbelievably expensive. So yeah, then I just went straight back to Dallas. But at least in Vegas, you've got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't gamble. I don't want to go to strip clubs.
Go shooting?
Shooting? Yeah, I would, I guess, but it doesn't matter. When I'm there at the shows, there's no time for recreation. It's like constant, day and night.
So that said, what's your role now? What will you be doing leading into the shows next year?
So right now, as it stands, if I'm going to be at shows, right now it would probably just be for Muscle Tech. Maybe I'll go there, hang out at their booth, help them out or something. I honestly don't know as far as contest coverage. My own channel that I started up again, Ron Harris, I don't foresee necessarily doing on-site contest coverage on my own like I did with MD, unless I could secure a sponsor, which isn't out of the question. But so I'm getting back into writing for different people again. I've been talking to a few people because prior to being full-time with MD, I was only full-time with MD from January 2017 on. I started writing for them in 2001, but for all those years in between, I was still writing for Iron Man, Muscle Mag, Testosterone, plenty of other Planet Muscle, plenty of other people. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed working with different people and not having all my eggs in one basket. It just kept things a little more fresh and interesting to me. So probably be doing that. But, honestly, there's like 5 or 6 people in projects I'm talking with right now that I can't say exactly what I'll be doing. Muscle Tech, I am under contract, so I'll still be working with them for sure. The other ones, I don't want to say anything quite yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but I do want to bring back more content to my channel. I'm almost at the point, Xavier knows this game, I have to get I still need like a couple hundred more viewing hours to qualify to monetize it again. And then I can start getting sponsors and stuff and I want to bring back the Ask Dr. Testosterone video. We had a great show, great rapport, me and Dr. George from Greece. My interview show, I want to bring back stuff like that for sure. Because I do enjoy the video content. And, I'm inspired by guys like Xavier that, this new generation of the young guys. Xavier, what are you, like 30?
No, I'm 34.
You're old. No, what I'm saying, you're that young generation. The YouTube is a young man's game, and I'm psyched. I'm very happy that I can still be part of it. But I do want to get my own channel going again for sure. Because I've had it since 2006. Believe it or not, that channel. Yeah.
Oh wow, it's been hanging.
Yeah, and then let me tell you, YouTube. I look at the views on my crappy early videos, which you guys, I don't know if you remember, there was a thing called a flip camera. It was the cheapest piece of shit video you could imagine. And then you could just plug it in your computer and download. So everything's grainy and so pixelated looking. But I would get like 100. Sometimes there's a video I have on there of Steve Kukla doing some heavy curls. It's got like almost 600,000 views because there was like no competition back then. YouTube was like a fraction back then of what it is now.
If we could all go back to however many years ago and know what YouTube was going to become in terms of monetization and stuff and what sort of content to do, I'm sure we'd all be killing it in terms of that sort of stuff. But but Ron, I have to ask you, RxMuscle and Dave Palumbo, they've extended the olive branch to you in terms of coming on the channel, and I know you've said out of respect to Steve Blackman, because obviously there was the RxMuscle after it was pretty much Flex versus MD, and then it was MD versus RxMuscle. It seemed like after Dave Palumbo and John Romano left. Now, I want to get your opinion, firstly, before I ask another question. Do you agree that Dave Palumbo and John Romano should have been fired? If you were in Steve's position, would you have done the same, or what do you think?
I don't have all the facts. It's a he said, she said situation, so that I can't comment on. But that was almost, you realize in January that'll be 15 years ago? 15 years ago.
Wow.
And I mean, here's where I stand on that. So they were let go. They were upset about it, but Dave has become so much bigger now. He would never have reached the levels of success he has if he had I had his job, online editor. If he had stayed with MD all those years, he never would have really been able to expand and have his own channel like that. Supplement company wouldn't have as much time, the coaching. He's tremendously successful, very hardworking guy, very intelligent guy. But I just think to myself, why was he so upset even after years and years have passed when it's clear that was probably the best thing that ever happened to him? And Romano has always worked in the industry. They were both just fine. It's not like their careers are ruined. So the reason I wouldn't go on, am I on to the second question yet? I don't know. But the reason I won't go on is because they spent all these years literally like making fun of Steve, like his voice. Dave had a puppet of Steve. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
An actual hand puppet that somebody took the time to make, and he would imitate Steve with a puppet on his hand. This is a guy who's already in his 40s at that point. It's just I don't get it. Why would you hold a grudge that long, especially when you've gone on to being more successful? So, Steve has faults. We all have faults, but he treated me very well. I made a lot of money with Steve over many years. So out of respect for him, I'm not going to do it. And people say, oh, are you afraid of what he's going to? No, I have no contact with him now. I expect every now and then I might chat with him every now and then, but I have no contact with him. He never said, don't do this, don't do that. I'm not afraid of being reprimanded. I don't work for the guy anymore. It's just, I personally feel like after all those years where they trashed MD, trashed it, even while I was trying to do my best to elevate the company, make money for the company, get a lot of views on YouTube, do my job, basically. He was kind of making my job more difficult by constantly trashing MD and planting that seed in people's mind. MD sucks, MD's this, MD that. That's the company I work for. So, yeah, they never said I give them credit. I don't recall them ever saying anything bad about me. Thank you for that, Dave. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. They've said a lot of good things about my writing, my work ethic, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, there were all those years where I was working for MD, and the company I was working for and was supporting my family and paying for this house and all that, they were just constantly bad-mouthing it and trashing it, laughing at it, mocking it. Now, I just can't support him and go on his channel. He's fine without me. I'm sure he'll be okay, but that's just where I stand on that.
Fair.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like it's interesting, and I think with Dave, because I know Dave, I know you, and I know like I know both sides completely. Yeah. I think Dave, it becomes like a bit. You know what I mean? Like when they start talking about it, and it's almost like an ongoing joke. That I think as well with YouTube, the whole thing is like the fans egg it on as well. And it all becomes like a whole big bit, and obviously extend out a long time. And when you're working for a company in your position, I'd be sort of the same. I'd be like, oh, shut the fuck. Like I'd be wanting people to be quiet about it for sure. So yeah, I definitely understand that. And it's respectable that, you're not beholden to Steve Blackman now, and you're still like, no, out of respect, I still want to do this. So I think that's a respectable move.
I want to sing one song to them, to Dave especially. It's from the movie Frozen. Yes. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Let It Go. Let It Go. Just let it go. It's been 15 years. You've moved on. You've got all these other companies. Now there's no MD. He's got to let it go now. There's nothing to say. The company doesn't exist anymore. So, yeah.
Ron, I have children. So,
what the hell's that?
Let it go. That's the one that sings Let It Go.
Oh!
It's like a kid's bubble bar.
It's Elsa. Is that her name?
Yeah, that's the one that sings Let It Go. Yeah,
that's right. So you stuck watching all those crappy Disney movies too, like I was.
Oh yeah. I've heard my daughter sing "Let It Go" to me that many times. So yeah, I get it. I get it. But yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for doing this, Ron. It's been awesome. Really appreciate you being open, honest, and talking about all this, because some people would just choose to avoid it and just go, I don't want to answer any hard questions. You come on here, and I think it helps. You've asked for hard questions for years, so now you can answer them.
Yeah, I don't shy away, and I think appreciate you for inviting me. I've been watching you grow your channel for the past few years. A lot of respect, a lot of admiration. When I'm covering shows,
Thank
and
you.
I see you're covering shows, and I know what time it is for you, it just boggles my mind how you stay awake, like literally all through the night into the next day to cover shows.
Caffeine.
That's dedication right there.
Yeah. Well, it's easier when you love something, like I'm sure with this. It's when you enjoy doing something, if it's on in the middle of the night, it's like, yeah, I'm missing sleep, but I enjoy it. Oh, and I'm going to make money from it, or, be able to talk with people and stuff. It's actually fun doing it. So I'm like, this is actually enjoyable. I get paid. Yeah, I miss some sleep, but yeah.
Hopefully you make it up. Yeah, you need your sleep.
Yeah. I've got to tell you, the last show did not get that many views, so I was a little bit like, oh, I didn't make much of this at all. Been staying up a lot every night, but it's all good. But thank you so much, Ron. I want to thank you again. And we're going to be on for another What's the Word after this as well. And make sure everyone follow Ron on YouTube. If there's any other links that you want me to promote, I'll put them in the description below as well. So make sure you check out all the links for Ron and also Michael Galley and Jimmy Sadek as well. Thank you so much, Ron Harris. For myself, Xavier Wills, Ron Harris, Michael Galley, and Jimmy Sadek. That's it for another episode of What's the Word, and we are